So you've had to complete at least one academic year in student status. So one academic year for OPT purposes is a fall and a spring semester. Summer doesn't count. You have to be currently in valid F1 status. And your full-time OPT cannot begin until your program completion. So you have to be in your last semester to apply for OPT. Unless you are a master's thesis or PhD dissertation student, you are allowed to apply for OPT once you've completed all your coursework, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So when to apply for OPT? So for OPT purposes, your graduation date or your I-20 program completion date will be May 10th this semester. So the earliest that you can apply for OPT is 90 days before your program end date, which in this case is May 10th. So the earliest that you could apply is actually February 10th, 2024. So that is this upcoming Saturday. You don't have to apply the very first day, but if you wanted to, that's the very first day that you could apply. You can start requesting your OPT I-20 from us starting tomorrow at 12 p.m. So the application is not going to open until tomorrow at 12 p.m. just because I don't want any of you to apply before those 90 days because you will get denied. Okay. So the latest day you can apply for OPT is actually July 9th, 2024. We don't recommend that, obviously, because I always tell my students it's better to apply earlier rather than later because you don't exactly know how long USCIS processing time is going to take. Because no one's applied for OPT at this semester, even I don't know how long processing time is going to take. I know last semester in the fall, students that applied in the first month and a half of their OPT eligibility, they got approved within a few weeks, but I can't guarantee that that will be the case this semester. So I won't know how long processing time is going to take until some of you get approved and get back to me, okay? So between February 10th and July 9th, that is your OPT eligibility window to apply, okay? So your OPT start date. So your OPT start date has to be within 60 days of your program end date. So the earliest OPT start date that you can apply for is May 11th. And that is a Saturday. Most students like to pick a Monday to start working just because most onboarding takes place on Mondays, but you know, it's really up to you. And the latest OPT start date that you can pick is July 9th, 2024. Okay. So you can see here, we have a riskier start date and a safer start date. So by riskier start date, we don't mean there's a risk in you getting denied. By riskier, we just mean there's a chance that you may not get approval by the time your early start date comes, depending on when you first applied, okay? So riskier start date based on approval, you know, late May, early June. Safer start date, late June, early July. But then again, it really is up to you. Every student is different. Some of you may have already gotten a job offer. Some of you may have started the job search yet. Some of you may not have started the job search yet. Everything, you know, all of those options are fine, but it's really up to you to decide when you want your start date to begin. Okay, so remember, 60 days after May 10th is when you can start to work. So choosing OPT start date. A lot of times in advising, students will ask me, you know, what is a good OPT start date for me? Well, you have to consider the following, okay? First of all, the ISSO staff cannot make this decision for you. This is a personal decision you have to make. Don't compare yourself to your friends' start dates. Like I said, every student is different. You have to take into account the USCIS processing time. Right now, we're seeing an average of 60 to 90 days. So I know that's a pretty long time, and unfortunately, that's normal processing for USCIS. So there's really nothing we can do about that. Consider, how long interviews are going to take, how many rounds, how long will the job search take? Maybe your employer has, a lengthy background check that you have to complete. That really all depends. Also take into account, taking a vacation, going back home, giving yourself time to rest. I understand that everyone is eager to start employment right away, but let me tell you, enjoy your time, in between, because once you start working every day, it's not as fun as you may think it is. Okay. I know you're going to be making money, but give yourself time to rest in between graduation and when you start working. Okay. So just a few things to remember. Your requested start date has to be within those 60 days of your program completion date. You cannot start working earlier than the start date that you pick. Okay. You can start working later. That's completely fine. So say you have a June 1st start date and you decide to start working, June 15th. That's completely fine. You just cannot work before your EAD start date. One very, very important thing that you need to know is that once you pick your OPT start date, that's it. The ISSO, aka me, who is processing all of your OPT applications by myself, I am not going to reprocess your application because you changed your mind on your OPT start date, okay? If I did that for every single one of you, I would be processing, let's see, an average for a spring semester is about 350 OPT applications. I would be doing that constantly, even more, if you all decided to change your start date after I issued your I-20, okay? So think long and hard when it comes to your OPT start date. Also, when you submit your OPT application in USCIS, there is absolutely no way for you to change your start date, unfortunately. So say you submit your OPT application with USCIS with a June 1st start date, but you have a job offer letter later on that wants you to start May 15th, you cannot change your start date, unfortunately. Okay, so really take the time to think about what you want your EAD dates to be. So a little scenario for you, just to see, how it can play out. So say Sam, she chooses an OPT start date, later on in those 60 days. So, July 8th to July 7th. So she doesn't have a job offer right away. And, she's worried that it may take a while to find one. She's concerned about the job market. She wants to take a breather between study and work, which is completely normal and fine. And she just doesn't trust USCIS to process her application in the average time. Okay. So what happens to Sam if USCIS actually issues her EAD card, a month before her start date? Her start date will still be the one that she chose in July. And she cannot start working until her start date has arrived. So luckily for Sam, she may have gotten a job offer quicker than she expected. And the employer may want her to start before her start date, but she absolutely cannot start until her start date has arrived. Okay, so two things that you need to have to start working. You have to have your physical EAD, and your start date also has arrived. Okay. Second scenario, Tricky Ricky. So Tricky Ricky chooses the following OPT dates. He chooses, the Monday after graduation. So if everything goes perfectly and he applies on time, he's good to go. But what happens to Ricky if USCIS actually issues his EAD card 2 months later on July 1st? So something that you need to know is USCIS will not edit your EAD card to reflect the delayed issuance date. So during COVID, USCIS allowed themselves to kind of play around with the start dates. So if you were approved later after your start date, they would alter your start date to show that. But they don't do that anymore. So that means that you will have to accrue unemployment time if your EAD card is delayed, and I'll go through what your unemployment days mean later on. So Ricky can't work until he has his EAD card and his start date has passed. Something may go down where his employer might be put off by the delay and rescind his offer. I know students are really scared about employers rescinding offers, but in my experience, just from what students have told me, most employers are pretty flexible when it comes to start dates. They understand, USCIS processing times. So it's very rare that an employer will rescind an offer because of processing time. Okay. So two different scenarios for you there. Has anyone seen Emperor's New Groove? This is my favorite Disney movie. If you haven't seen it, Disney Plus, it's on there, just a little plug. But you have a Kronk here. So he has a devil and angel on his shoulder. So the devil's like, hey, don't you want to start, to work right away? Like, don't you want to start making that money? Make your start date the day after graduation. And then you have the angel on Kronk's shoulder that's like, hey, you should play it safe. Processing times are taking a little bit longer. I want to start date with a little more cushion, and, I want to take a breather between study and work. So take that into consideration for what you will, but few different scenarios for you to see how it could play out possibly. All right, so my master's thesis and PhD dissertation students, listen up because this is for you. You have major flexibility when it comes to your OPT start date, actually, because unlike the other students, you are eligible for full-time OPT when you complete your coursework. All that we ask is that your defense date is scheduled within 6 months of your OPT start date. So that means you have to wrap everything up within those 6 months of when you start your OPT. And that is a UNC Charlotte policy. Just so you're aware, all on-campus employment, any GASPs, stipends, university health insurance, that all ends by your OPT start date because you won't be enrolled anymore, okay? So really it's up to the ISSO and your program advisor if we feel like OPT is a great option for you while you're still in that dissertation or thesis phase. So if you're not making normal progress towards your degree, we may not approve you for OPT. Something that you really need to consider. So I'm sure anyone that is writing a thesis or a dissertation will tell you that that is a full-time job in itself. So think about doing that as well as working another full-time regular job on top of that. So just think about what time management challenges that could pose. We can't extend your I-20 for more time for you to complete your thesis or dissertation, just so you're aware of that. And if you are eligible for a STEM extension, you cannot apply for your STEM extension without a copy of your diploma. which you won't be able to get if your thesis or dissertation is incomplete. Okay. So definitely look through all of this important information, have a conversation with me, or make an advising appointment with anyone in the ISSO if you are in this position and you think that you want to apply for OPT, because we'll go through all of your options. Okay. All right, so how to apply for OPT. So first thing that we need to do is you need to apply for your OPT I-20. You can easily do that just by going to the OPT page on the ISSO's website under how to apply. It is a big gold button that says apply for your OPT requested I-20. For you to apply for your I-20, you already need to know your start date, because that's what I'm going to enter into CVIS, and that's how I'm going to request your OPT. You also need your academic advisor to sign off on your OPT. So it can be your academic advisor, it can be your program advisor, department chair, program coordinator, someone that knows you and can go in DegreeWorks and confirm that, yes, this is the student's last semester. So they don't have to write a recommendation letter or anything. A lot of students think that's the case, but no. All you have to do is in your OPT I-20 request application, you're just going to enter their email address, and they're just going to receive an email, and they're going to have to just check off 2 or 3 boxes that say, yes, I know this student. Yes, they're graduating this semester, so they're eligible for OPT. Okay. Once you submit that, then it ends up in my queue. We have a 5 business day processing time for OPT applications. I try to get them back to you, within 1 or 2 days, but bear with me. The spring semester can get quite chaotic just because it's usually a big OPT season. So just be patient with me, please. I promise you, you will for sure have your OPT application within those 5 business days, okay? Once I issue you your I-20, I will electronically upload it to your ISSO Connect portal, and you'll receive an automated email saying, hey, your OPT I-20 is ready for download. And that will also link you to an OPT review session, okay? We hold the OPT review sessions twice a week, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. and Fridays at 9 a.m., unless I'm out or I need to move around the OPT reviews based on my schedule. But for the most part, those are the concrete times that we have them. The OPT review session is not mandatory, but it's highly, highly, highly recommended. Because in that review session, I go through every single step of the I-765. I answer everything as if I was a student, so I share my screen, you see everything, and it's your last chance for you to ask any questions before you submit your OPT application to USCIS. I can't stress how important it is for you to attend a OPT review session. I will let you know that we have a super high approval rate at UNC Charlotte of OPTs, and it's largely because of the OPT review session, okay? For students that get denied OPT, 9 times out of 10, it's because they think they don't need the OPT review session and they apply without attending one. So don't let that be you. Take advantage of this awesome resource. So just be aware those are twice a week, okay? So during that OPT review session, we will go through the online I-765, as I said. Something that you all need to know, there is a fee associated with applying for OPT. Some students don't know that. There is a $410 fee when it comes to applying for OPT. That is the I-765 fee. It is increasing to $470 on April 1st. Okay. That is 99% confirmed by USCIS. So just be aware of that. We, as international educators, have tried our best to advocate for it to stay the same because that is a whole lot of money, especially for a college student. But unfortunately, it does look to be increasing to 470 on April 1st. So just be aware of that. So once we go over everything in the OPT review, then it's up to you to submit your application. Something that you really need to be aware of is you have to absolutely submit your OPT application within 30 days of your OPT I-20 issuance. I'll explain this a whole lot more during the OPT review. Okay. Okay, so what to do when you're waiting on OPT approval? So that is what your EAD card is going to look like. It looks like basically just like an ID with all of your information on it, and it'll just state that you're on post-completion OPT and your EAD dates. Okay, so as we said, your EAD card has to arrive as well as your start date for you to start working. When you first get your EAD card, please double check it for typos. This is your chance to get it fixed if you need to. And sometimes it does happen. USCIS makes mistakes or students make mistakes on their I-765. So just double check everything when you first receive it. So your EAD card is sent by federal mail, which uses the US Post Office. Federal mail cannot get forwarded. So if you do change addresses while your application is pending, let me know and I will tell you what steps you need to do to change your address and notify USCIS. Another thing, the look of the EAD card is changing. So this is what it used to look like. And now this is the new look of the EAD card. Okay. It is perfectly okay and valid for you to receive an EAD card with the old design. That doesn't mean your EAD card is not valid. It still is. Not all of you will receive the new format, but I don't want to receive emails saying, hey, my friend got the other EAD card format and I didn't. Why? Don't worry about that. All of your EAD cards are valid, even if they do look a little bit different than your friends. Okay. So just be aware of that. Okay, managing stress. Let's talk about that. Okay, so I understand being in your last semester, applying for jobs, contemplating the job market. Is it going to be easy for me to find a job? Is it not? I totally understand the anxiety and the stress that comes with finding a job. I have been there. But there are good ways to manage stress and there are bad ways to manage stress. Okay. So good ideas to manage stress, spend time on your hobbies. Take advantage of the Career Center on campus. They will look at your resume, prepare your cover letter. I will tell you the number one complaint I hear from employers regarding international students is their cover letters are absolutely terrible. So take that for what you will and use the Career Center's resources to make sure that your cover letter is amazing and ready to submit to job applications, okay? The Career Center will also work on interviewing skills as well. They'll set up mock interviews in person, or if you want to practice a Zoom interview. They really have such amazing resources that are specifically tailored for international students. So take advantage of those. And those are still offered to you when you graduate. Okay. So when you are an alum, those services are still free and you still have access to them. Okay. Focus on the positive things in life as well. Remember, at one point, you wanted to be where you currently are right now, finishing your studies and looking for a job. Okay. So just focus on the positive things in life. Bad ideas to do while managing stress. And unfortunately, I see a lot of the bad ideas more than the good ideas. Checking your case status every day. I promise you there will be no day-to-day updates for you to check your case status every single day. Reading non-credible websites. Please don't tell me that you read a Reddit thread from 7 years ago that says that they're getting rid of OPT and what are you going to do now because your application is pending. Don't think about the scary what ifs. Don't listen to your friends. They are not DSOs. They are not international student advisors. Do not listen to your friends at other schools. Do not call USCIS every day. So just a few things to think about, because if you drive yourself crazy, you will in turn drive me crazy. But just think about good ideas to manage your stress and don't think about, the bad ideas. Okay. Just something I want you all to think about. So while you're on OPT, there are some things that you need to know. Again, right now, you don't have to have these memorized because we will go over them when you are on OPT, but just so you're aware. So they have what's called an SEVP portal, USCIS does, and this is how you will update all of your employment information when you are on OPT. So basically, it's a way for me to be able to track you. It's a way for the government to be able to track you just to see where you're working, where you're living, things like that. So you will receive a link to create your portal after your start date has passed. It's so important for you to create your account right away. Even if you don't have a job already, that link does expire. So just create the account as soon as you get that email. Sometimes it can get wonky and sometimes students don't receive that link. If you haven't, just let me know and I can easily just resend it. So these are the things that you need to report in that OPT SEVP portal. So within any changes that you have on OPT, you have to report them in your portal within 10 days. So if you change personal addresses or phone numbers, or if you start a new job or leave a job or change office locations, you will have to report that. A new I-20 is not generated every time you change employment, okay? I'm sure you have friends at other schools that will tell you, oh, I got a new I-20 every time I changed a job. We don't do that here at UNC Charlotte because it's not a regulatory requirement, so you don't actually need that, okay? You also don't need an I-20 that shows approved. Your EAD card will suffice, especially if you're going to travel, okay? So the SEVP portal is your responsibility on OPT. It is not controlled by the ISSO, just for you to be aware of that. Okay, unemployment time. Let's talk about that. So in your 12 months of OPT, you do get what's called 90 days of unemployment time, okay? So these 90 days serve as a cushion for you. If maybe it's taking you longer than you expected to find a job and your start date has come, you can use some of those unemployment time days until you find a job. Or maybe you start with a job and after 6 months, you're like, hey, this isn't a really good fit for me. So you leave that employer. Then you have those 90 days or however many days left of unemployment time that you have to hold you over until your new job. Okay. So that 90-day clock starts ticking from your start date if you don't have a job and you haven't reported it in that portal that we just talked about. Okay. So what constitutes as employment on OPT? So your employment has to be more than 20 hours a week to be considered full-time on OPT. It has to be in your field of study. So you can't be, a health and wellness major and trading stocks on Wall Street for your OPT. That is going to be really hard to convince USCIS that it's directly related to your degree. Unpaid internships count as OPT employment, contract jobs work for OPT, self-employment. Self-employment gets a little tricky because there are a little more hoops that you have to cross, but it does count for OPT employment. And obviously paid employment counts for OPT employment as well. You can have more than one employer on OPT and you can change employers. So you're not tied to one employer, especially if it's not as good of a fit as you thought. You're more than free to change employers if you need to. Okay. It's important that you just have like a job verification letter, especially if you're going to travel. Basically, this letter just states that yes, you are an employer, you're an employee of the specific employer and you're on OPT. Okay. If you cross into the territory of having more than 90 days of unemployment time, this is bad news bears, okay? That is a violation of your status, and you do have to depart the US immediately. If you choose to stick around, that is a big no-no, and it could bar you from entering the US for however many years or ever again. So if you're close to those 90 days, it's best that you leave before you accrue those 90 days, okay? So just be aware of all of that information when it comes to your unemployment time. Traveling on OPT. So you are valid to travel on OPT, just as you are now as an enrolled student. You need your same usual travel documents with you, but this time you'll need your EAD card as well. And your I-20 will need to be signed every 6 months instead of once every 12 months right now as an enrolled student. So, as you know, it's super easy to request a travel signature from us. Just go to the ISSO's website and we will electronically upload it to you within 5 business days, okay? Also, it's always good to have an employment offer letter or a verification letter that shows that you're actually working for that employer, okay? So can you study while you're on OPT? So the general answer is absolutely not. OPT is practical training. It's your time to show us what you've learned during your studies. So it's all about work right now when you're on OPT. So that means you cannot enroll part-time in a degree program. You can't start a higher level program on OPT. If the government finds out that you're on OPT and you're also studying full time, they will just terminate your EAD card, which is obviously very, very bad for you. So OPT is for work and not study. Unless you want to start a new program when you're on OPT. So maybe you want to cut your OPT short and enroll in a program. That's completely fine. We're happy to do that. Just notify us, and we're happy to send your CVIS ID transfer to another university, or if you want to stay at UNC Charlotte for another degree, we're more than happy to transfer your I-20 for a change of level at UNC Charlotte. Okay. Obviously, if you want to partake in any like community education classes, obviously those are fine, but we're just staying away from like actual degree program classes when you're on OPT. Paying taxes. It is tax season. I'm sure all of you saw the ISSO email on Monday about tax codes are now available. Just an FYI, you do not want to come to the ISSO with any questions about your taxes, because I promise you, we are the last people that you want to ask about taxes. Especially me, my parents still do my taxes, so I have absolutely no idea what goes on when it comes to taxes. But when you're on OPT, you will have to pay taxes. Depending on your country, you may have a treaty with the US where if you've been in the US a certain amount of time, you don't have to pay taxes. But it really all depends. So you'll still have to pay taxes for the most part, like an American does. And it's very, very important for you to double check your first paycheck to make sure that all of your information is accurate. So like your name, social security number, things like that, because when it comes time to taxes and you notice that, you have your name misspelled or your social security wrong on your paycheck, that will lead to major headaches for you when you're applying for your taxes. So just be aware of that. Make friends with your HR office. They're the ones that are going to handle your taxes, your W-2 forms when you are working for an employer. Again, the ISSO staff cannot answer any tax-related questions. We do have quite an informative tax page on the ISSO's website and a really cool graphic for you that kind of explains like what you need to fill out based on your specific situation for taxes. So take advantage of that, and you will still be eligible to buy our $3 tax code when you're on OPT. So that's really awesome for you because that saves you about 45 bucks. So definitely take advantage of that next year. Okay, so say you your EAD card is ending. What are your next steps? So again, this is way, way into the future, but I know a lot of you like to plan your lives out like 5 years in advance. So this is just your options. You do have a grace period after your 60 days when your EAD card ends. So you can stay in the US for those 60 days. You can travel around domestically. But once you leave, that's it. You're no longer in F1 status. And during those 60-day grace period, you cannot work because your EAD card is expired, and that would be illegal employment. As I mentioned, you can transfer your F1 record to another university. Remember, every time you earn a higher degree, that's 12 more months of OPT and possibly 2 years additional for your STEM extensions if you're eligible. Cap gap work authorization. So this is actually mostly for spring grads or summer grads. So if your EAD card ends next year, in July, but you were approved for an H-1B, that's like automatic employment extension for you. Last but not least, you can apply for a STEM extension after your while your OPT EAD card is close to expiration date. So students that are only in STEM degrees are eligible to apply for that. I'm not going to go into detail of your STEM extension eligibility or how to apply for your STEM extension, nor will I be answering questions about the STEM extension because that is about a year and a half away for all of you if you are eligible. But those are just your options as your EAD card is ending. Okay, so just some general ISSO information for you. Just a reminder, we do have advising 4 days a week. We do have walk-in advising twice a week, as well as phone advising twice a week. So we do have phone advising. That is really for the OPT and STEM OPT students that are not in the Charlotte area and cannot come to walk-in advising. So that'll be an option for you when you are on OPT. Again, OPT reviews are twice a week. You do have to sign up ahead of time for those OPT reviews in order to get the Zoom link. Email. So I try to respond as quickly as I can if you email me. But in OPT season, things can get hectic. So it may take me like a day to get back to you. Just be patient. And please only email one ISSO staff member about a specific situation. Please don't also email Dylan about the same subject, because then you're wasting one of our times as we look up your case and give you an answer. So just email one ISSO advisor about your question. Okay. Awesome. So workshop feedback. Please scan this and give us feedback on the OPT workshop. Dylan really loves data and workshop feedback. So please scan this and let us know if you feel like you learned anything from this workshop. If you didn't, that's also okay too. Be honest, it is anonymous. Okay. All righty, it is time for questions. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I am more than happy to ask or to answer anything that you have questions about. Okay, we got one. You guys, I am just seeing all of your messages right now saying, we can't see the slides. What are you doing? Sorry about that. Alrighty, so first question is, where can I get the link to sign up for the OPT review session? So great question. So once your I-20 is uploaded to your ISSO Connect portal, you will receive the link to sign up for one of the review sessions. Another question, can we not apply as a STEM OPT? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but right now you should not be concerned about your STEM OPT extension because you need to be approved for a 12-month OPT first. Alrighty, Ian asked, can we do an unpaid internship before your EAD start date? Absolutely not. No work authorization until your start date has arrived, and you also have that EAD card in hand. So if you guys are working on campus, the very last day that you can work is your program end date on your I-20, which will be May 10th. So from May 10th to your start date, you cannot work. Can we apply for further education while working on OPT to start once we finish? Yeah, of course. So you can apply, for another degree while you're still on OPT. You just can't like physically start a program while you're on OPT. Do we have to renew OPT every year for the STEM OPT? No. So once your 12-month OPT is coming to an end, you will apply for your STEM OPT extension, which is a 2-year extension. So you have those 2 years. Okay. Do students on OPT, STEM OPT have the same tax filing requirements as enrolled students? As I said in the presentation, please don't ask me any tax questions because I actually have no idea. When you're on OPT and STEM OPT, you will be asking these questions to your HR office. Can you give a hypothetical time period for thesis students and when do we apply for OPT? If you can provide a time frame similar for non-thesis student. Okay, so if you are a master's thesis student or a PhD student, please send me an email or come talk to me during advising so we can go through what timeline works best for you, because every student that is on a thesis or dissertation track have different timelines. So I'm not going to be answering that question right now. I will apply for the OPT for my graduate certificate. Once I finish my OPT, can I start my master's and then have another 12 months of OPT? So the answer is no, because you are only eligible for OPT once per degree level. So that graduate certificate and your master's are the same degree level. So no, you will not have another 12 months of OPT if you start a master's after your graduate certificate. Can I work as a teaching assistant or research assistant post my OPT start date? So that's a tough question. So the answer is yes, if those positions are not student positions. So you cannot be hired under student employment when you are on OPT. And also if you were in that position and you weren't being paid, but someone in the same exact position as you was being paid, then that's an absolute no-no on OPT, because that just violates labor laws. If we run out of H-1B trials, since we only get 2 now and our OPT is ending and we decide to pursue higher education and get OPT again, will that mean we get 2 more trials at H-1B? I don't know. I cannot answer any H-1B questions. Neither can anyone else in the ISSO. That is outside of our realm. Can I have more than one job while on OPT? Yes, you can. You can have 2 jobs. You can have 3 jobs. Could graduate certificates potentially give you an OPT STEM extension? So no, graduate certificates are not eligible for STEM extensions. Only master's programs are eligible for OPT STEM extensions, not graduate certificates. So I plan to apply for a master's at UNCC and also apply for OPT. If I want to continue a master's, well, I just need to call an advisor to withdraw OPT. Yep. So if that's the case for you and you apply for OPT, but then over the summer you decide that you want to enroll in a program for the fall, depending on if your application is approved or not, if it's still pending, yes, you'll have to withdraw, and unfortunately you won't get your money back. But if that's the case for you, talk to us and we'll talk you through what you need to do in that process. Is there any requirement that if you work remotely from another state, your address and SUV portal needs to be in the state where your employer is located? So Remote work is fine on OPT, but for your portal, like employer information, we just ask that you enter your employer headquarters or maybe the nearest closest physical office to you. Because if ICE is going to do an employment check, you want to make sure that someone there can verify that you indeed are an employer, even if an employee, even if you are a remote worker. Are PhDs eligible for STEM extension? You mentioned only masters are eligible. Sorry, yes. Bachelor's, masters, and PhDs are all eligible for STEM extensions. What I meant is on the master's level, only a master's degree is eligible for a STEM extension, not a graduate certificate. Lots of STEM OPT questions, you guys, and you are about a year and a half away from even thinking about that. When I get a job, where do I input that information so my employment days are logged? Is it the SCVP portal? Correct. Yes. So that is where you'll enter all of your employment information in your SCVP portal. Any more questions? Alrighty. Well, if you have any more questions, you all now have my email address, so feel free to email me and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that come up after this presentation. We also have an FAQ page on our OPT page on the ISSO, and that has a bunch of frequently asked questions on there with answers. So if you have any questions, definitely take a look at that page first. And then if not, definitely reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer whatever you have questions about. So good luck, everybody. We will all be in touch. I'm sure of it. Just a reminder, the application for the I-20 from the ISSO opens tomorrow at 12 p.m. So just be aware of that. Okay. But thank you everybody for joining. I hope you got something out of this. As I stated, this will be posted on the ISSO's OPT page under application resources, as well as the slides. So that is there for everyone should you need it. Okay. But thank you so much for attending, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Okay. So take care, everybody. Bye.